And I think we have the Victoria Police here. Maybe they could come forward. So, could you please identify yourself and your organisation?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioner. Chris O'Neill's my name. I'm an Assistant Commissioner with Victoria Police. I represent the Transit and Public Safety Department, and my colleague is Inspector Philip Green. Phil's also with the Transit Safety Division of Victoria Police. In terms of my role with Victoria Police in the taxi industry, the Chief Commissioner, Ken Lay, has appointed me as the senior representative to be between Victoria Police and the taxi industry. This is a position I took up about two weeks ago. Inspector Philip Green has been the liaison officer between Victoria Police and the Taxi Director for about the last 2.5 years. And in my new role as a liaison officer, Phil will be my deputy.
Thank you. So I'll just invite you, if you wanted to make some opening comments on it and your role, perhaps.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My role will be as the most senior member of Victoria Police liaising with the taxi industry. In Victoria Police, I'm a member of the Victoria Police Command team, and with that I'll be able to talk to people within my own level right across the regions and the crime department and our education department at the academy. So in terms of looking at enforcement strategies across the state, educating police members, and then my role will be more as an advocacy role with liaison across the taxi industry. In terms of the inquiry report, thank you, we've had the opportunity to look at that. Some very nice comments in there in relation to how we're working with the taxi industry and in relation to the opportunities for improvement that the inquiry has seen. Phil's got a presentation to put before yourself, Commissioner, and yourself, Chair.
Thank you. I'll invite you to make any comments.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Philip Green, as mentioned, the presentation or the comments made take or consider the comments in the draft report or inquiry, and also some of the actions or activities being undertaken by Victoria Police within this area. Starting with safety, the industry safety and a continued focus on safety remains a priority for Victoria Police. And in discussing a safety priority, we talk about a triple E approach, which is environment or engineering, education and enforcement. The 3E approach, or that engineering, education, enforcement, is a central platform to road policing initiatives and certainly credited with some of the improvements to road safety and reduction in road trauma over several years. And I'll put that into context in response, or in this response, and in addressing some of the issues raised in the draft report. Accepting prevention as a central focus about that continued safety, we look at the current rollout of the new generation cameras or safety cameras in taxis from 1 July. We would see cameras, safety cameras and further developments as very much a safety initiative. That safety initiative would link to opportunities for further crime prevention through environmental design using that triple E approach. Future generations will no doubt, as technology improves and advances, we'll start to look at remote download capacity as opposed to the manual download now with transport safety officers or TSOs, and links to potential for duress or live feed. A comparator to the duress or live feed would be in some of the tram rolling stock or assets held within Public Transport Victoria, where an incident occurs on a tram, some of the fleet are equipped with a live feed button, which in effect becomes a form of duress, where the operating or fleet operations centre in South Melbourne is able to hear and monitor direct conversations or occurrences from within that tram and make an assessment or triage, if you like, an appropriate response, including alerting emergency responders such as or including Victoria Police. Remote access capacity with cameras, including the current technology available through the network service providers, or your NSPs, again emerges as a clear opportunity for improvement in that area. Sometimes referred to as crime prevention through environmental design, or CEPTED, the target hardening aspect through that EEE approach remains very much central to a safety focus for the industry in terms of operators and users. The other options or opportunities, before I move on to the idea about the accord and conversations where Victoria Police would like to have certainly a seat or input to improve safety and continued safety, would be other target hardening or safety initiatives linked to CEPTED, and that may include some models that are used in public transport, not specifically taxis, but certainly forms of taxis, such as in Sydney's fleet of buses, current generation safety cameras are interestingly now linked to self-loops. And the idea behind that is that not only is there an ongoing recording of what occurs within a public transport vehicle, but there is then a reminder back via flat panel monitors to the passengers within that vehicle that they are in fact being monitored. The behaviour before and after the introduction of loops or live feed loops within transport vehicles would tend, according to New South Wales, have showed an improved safety or reduction of crime, including antisocial behaviour, which may hopefully link to a safer operating environment, again relevant to both operators and to users of the system. Other target hardening or safety initiatives can come about through the accord, which I'll move on to, or an accord, an improved accord, which I'll address in more detail shortly. An option that has been long discussed but is more difficult in execution is prepayment, and a proposal to have agreed or set routes with flat fares. At a public transport safety forum meeting held around about 18 months ago, a presentation was made by the Victoria Taxi Directorate to the forum on a model, a pilot introduced in Queensland in Fortitude Valley, which is Brisbane's nightclub or entertainment precinct. And very quickly it was based on three main things. One was having agreed ranks or super ranks. Two was having flat fare, prepaid flat fares to predetermined locations. And the third was CCTV, so technology being used to remind people that their behaviour was being recorded at that location. The way it works effectively, well, in Précis, is that a passenger can go to a predetermined location, they can pay an agreed fare, the payment is made up front, and the taxi or the operator is entitled to take a set number according to the taxi limit or licence to a agreed location. So an example would be if you had an agreed rank at Flinders Street, included numbers ranks, a taxi might move from there to Ringwood Railway Station and would go from a CCTV monitored location to a CCTV monitored location, which allows for a regulated response. And again, the number of instant or passenger movements affected through the Fortitude Valley model would appear to have been highly successful and assisted with both the local government or council moving people from the entertainment precinct at the end of an evening. The proposal was well received by the forum. There has not been Victoria Police is not aware of any action that's been taken in response to that proposal or to that model, but it is certainly something that we would see as being an effective initiative that would link to the Safe Streets program for Friday and Saturday nights in the CBD, Melbourne CBD, and again very much involving the industry as a central player to that Safe Streets program. The accord to which I referred has been raised, it's been noted in the draft report, and it's been subject to other discussions between the inquiry and Victoria Police. At this stage, there is certainly in principle support for an improved accord and being driven. The accord would most likely sit within an existing governance arrangement. In March 2010, the Public Transport Safety Forum had its inaugural meeting, co-chaired by then Deputy Commissioner Kieran Walsh and then Director of Transport Hector McKenzie. The forums have been postponed as of this year given the introduction of Public Transport Victoria and the legislation allowing the creation of the authority from the 1st of April of this year, with changes in portfolio holders, including by Public Transport Victoria and Victoria Police. A renewed forum is pending, but it should in all probability occur this year. It's based at CEO or director or executive director level for different stakeholders, and we would hope that the forum will allow a ready-made governance structure for an accord to answer to. The accord in many ways would look at improving part of the working or the work that was done for and reporting to the Public Transport Safety Forum by the Safe Travel Task Force. The Safe Travel Task Force was able to go out and have industry players, including VTD, Victoria Police, engage with, say, City of Melbourne and feed back to the forum in ways in which communication can be improved. One of the actions that has actually already occurred from that inaugural meeting in March 2010 has been Victoria Police now being an invitee and an attendee at the 3 separate forums, which have now amalgamated to 2, which are the taxi operator forums and the taxi, well, they were formerly the fleet forums and the operator forums, which have now been combined into one. I regularly attend those forums and will in fact be attending the next forum on 18 September for the driver forum and 25 September for the operator and fleet forum. An accord, as per the discussions and for commentary, would be larger or more inclusive than the current fora in which Victoria Police is involved. And we would see that as being a logical progression and one where we are a party or a partner to those discussions, as opposed to seeking to lead or to dictate or to define the terms of that accord. The forum, as mentioned, would certainly appear to be a logical governance structure that exists, going through to Mr O'Neill as a member of Victoria Police Leadership Group, an Assistant Commissioner or in fact a Deputy Commissioner, being Deputy Commissioner Tim Cartwright if he were to take that position on from Kieran Walsh following Kieran's retirement on 30 June this year. The accord would look at, or an accord can look at, a consolidation of some of the initiatives that have already been implemented. The Victoria Police position is that we support many of the things that have been done and been achieved, such as a reporting structure which was proposed and then moved as of December 2011, so around about 8 months ago, where we had a taxi incident reporting form. The reporting form was developed in consultation between the Directorate and Victoria Police, and what we sought to do as part of that incident notification form was to provide both operators and your fleet and your operators and drivers with a mechanism to report issues, concerns as they arose. As with earlier iterations of that initiative, we've found a lower than expected and a lower than wanted uptake of the forms, and whilst I can understand some of the reasons that drivers and or operators may be reluctant in filling those forms out, an accord may again present as a way to feed back or to loop the process by which information is sought and in fact information is provided. The reason for needing the information or that information loop, particularly an information loop in a circular model, is quite simply down to the acceptance that if a person or a group do not see or cannot understand the value of the input to of information and an effort, they'll cease doing it simply because, well, what's the point? With the assumption being, well, I've gone to this effort in filling out a form, I've given it to an authority, in this case being Victoria Police, and they've done nothing with it. Some of the commentary and the concerns raised in the draft inquiry at this stage will look at or focus on a misunderstanding or classification of offending, a lack of or perception of a lack of response by Victoria Police, and we would see that as being linked to an opportunity to improve the confidence and the operating environment in which taxis do work, and our really wanting to improve their trust or faith that Victoria Police will deliver a quality service. One of the anecdotal and common issues, or more common issues raised, is that of some drivers being less than happy with the Victoria Police response, normally by a fairly junior police member at a watch house, following a fare evasion. A fare evasion is a criminal offence. It's classified as basically the offence sits under the Crimes Act, and it's a generic offence of a person who obtains a financial advantage by deception. The financial advantage in this case comes from the evasion of a debt. So if a user were to get into a taxi and say, I would like you to take me to location X, we know that prepaid fares are not used as commonly or as often as one would prefer for a number of reasons. The contract is then and there. The driver then provides that service with the expectation of payment. He doesn't receive the payment on some occasions and the user runs off or leaves. We would say a prima facie offence occurs at that time.
It's a deception.
Deception, yeah, crime. Yeah, so it's obtaining a financial advantage through deception. There is no specific offence, which is maybe a consideration for future times in making a specific offence to fare evasion in taxis. The drivers on some occasions will go to or seek to report those matters, which is probably the most common, and anecdotally they'll receive right from an appropriate police response to advice that what they're reporting to police is a civil debt, that it's not a matter for police involvement or police follow-up, and is not a problem or it's not something they can take forward. One of the compounding issues with that process is that drivers say, once I go to a police station, if I do take a report or indeed make a statement, that can be half an hour, an hour and a half or more out of their time, which of course is the time they rely on to generate income. And that is, they get no recompense or recognition of that downtime. And so, unless it's a significant amount or there are extraordinary circumstances, we suspect there may be a degree of underreporting. The other issue with the current manual downloading is that whilst you have a criminal offence, it's unlikely you'd then have a driver agreeing to or going to a police station to allow downloading of footage of the suspect or suspects for the evasion, which is the evasion of a debt. So we would see there being opportunities to improve that reporting process, both in terms of awareness by police, and I know the draft inquiry makes reference to a handbook, a Northern Ireland handbook for both operators and police to assist with respective understanding. We would see again linking back to an improved accord about ways to drive and provide confidence not only to users but to operators as about how issues as raised are taken up by Victoria Police and what the organisational response will be in seeking to meet those concerns. The other party to the accord already mentioned is City of Melbourne have been very active in the Community Safety Committee and what started back in the 1990s with the Safe Streets. The Victoria Police now runs an operation every Friday, Saturday night, and sometimes on a Sunday or Thursday night, depending on where you have a public holiday on a Friday or Monday. The Safe Streets cameras are now a really effective and important component to the Safer Streets effort which is very much a partnership approach by Victoria Police and the City of Melbourne. And going back to our EEE approach, environment and engineering, for a safety or maintained safety focus, we would see that as being another likely opportunity for improvement from an accord. Agreed taxi ranks with or utilising Safe Streets cameras presents as an opportunity for improvement to provide a safer environment. Anecdotally, we know that some users may not use the agreed ranks, either through perception that it takes a long time or indeed because you may have or be subject to antisocial behaviour or indeed violence whilst waiting at that rank. A comparator that emerges quite often is Crown Casino, where notwithstanding the entertainment venue or the user need being in the CBD, they will commonly walk to Crown Casino because they will know you'll have a supply of taxis, a safe environment, covered by CCTV, And so we would link that to confidence, which certainly can be replicated, and we would say hopefully replicated for those or with those reasons or that focus in mind within the CBD of Melbourne using the agreed rank system. Standards and planning with crime prevention through environmental design as part of that Triple E approach is an area which Victoria Police remains able to provide advice on or input to, but certainly is not something that we could or should own. It is very much an industry standard, again leading to the in-principle support for and accord going forward. In comments to this inquiry, we would see and on consideration of former iterations of group responses to taxi safety, including the earlier state government task force, which is several years old now, which was launched by the then Minister Peter Batchelor. We would look at an accord relying on position-based or positions as opposed to individuals. So as individuals move on transfer through attrition, whether that be on assignment, promotion or transfer, agreed positions linked to contact or entry points to Victoria Police would appear linked to an effective accord if it were to A, have traction and B, have longevity in that role. The community cooperation and partnerships would be informed by an accord, and again it would be something where we would see Victoria Police being a partner, and the partner approach would look at link to the opening remarks that the department would wish to make to this inquiry, which is that ongoing focus on safety for operators, safety for users, and how we best work together in pursuing that safety, or that safety focus. So our prevention through environmental design, certainly we would seek and support options such as improved monitoring as discussed with duress systems or whether that be by the operators or the fleets or indeed the NSPs. We would look at other options such as your cashless transactions and an integrated system for taxis as part of the public transport system as part of that integrated approach. And we sometimes hear that referred to as target hardening. The harder it becomes to target a person to a crime, then the less likely it is for that crime to occur. The common reference or referrer in that area are banks. So if we go back to the 1970s, armed hold-ups on banks were sadly very commonplace. Through changes over the years, you'll now see it's very rare, if not extremely rare, for a bank to be subject or fall victim to an armed robbery. That same approach in target hardening can and should apply to the taxi industry. We've already seen that, and it certainly falls subject to some of the comments made in the draft inquiry, and indeed there's some references there to screens and indeed a fleet manufactured and designed with a crime prevention focus being part of user and driver safety. And the clear example or illustrated in the report are the London taxis, where the drivers are indeed kept separate from, or the licensed cabs in the UK, from the users. In preparing for this response, a number of comments were made or can be made into the issues and indeed some of the matters that were classed as being or classified as concerns. And Victoria Police remain very happy to receive, as per the terms, any questions in response to those queries or questions that were asked or that were flagged as part of the inquiry. And so before I do that, unless Mr O'Neill would like to go back or take me towards any points he was expanded on or further information given, I'm happy to take any questions in relation to those concerns or issues as raised.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just in relation to what Phil was saying, I'd just like to encapsulate in my role in terms of the connect between Victoria Police and the taxi industry. We actually are looking forward to strengthening that partnership. We now believe that bringing it to Assistant Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner level will get further leverage in what we've seen has been some terrific steps in the taxi industry and Victoria Police over recent years. So in terms of my role, I'm looking forward to that, taking on the challenges.
So thank you very much. It's a substantial submission. We appreciate that. I don't know if you have any questions at this stage?
No, I think the industry will be very heartened to hear what you've had to say. I wonder whether you'd care to make a general comment on the sort of your perception of overall safety in the industry. You've talked a lot about, various things that have been done and so on. How do you see this? Is it a problem, major problem?
The industry is certainly one that is very safe, and so if you prorate the number of passenger trips and passenger movements using taxi with the number of serious or crimes against the person that are recorded or linked to, and whilst we accept there being some data gaps using existing databases or data systems, it remains undeniably safe. Similarly, the wider public transport in Victoria, we know the advances or the improvements in public safety per 100,000 passenger trips is now very safe, but what we don't have going with that is perceptions of safety. So I think with the safety, yes, it is safe. However, I think the perceptions of safety, particularly for some or by some users and indeed operators of a night time, presents some opportunity for improvement. And again, going back, I think we will see the opportunities for improvement with that perceptions area being linked most probably to that EEE approach to how we engineer and change the operating environment, how we educate both users and the industry, and then how we, so it'll be that, and how we enforce the breaches that are detected or impact on driver safety.
So you're referring to the fact there are millions and millions of trips and there's some problems, there's serious problems, but you should also see them in perspective. I get your point fairly clearly.
And seeing that into perspective, and very much we feel what's going on around the perception of safety as well. I mean, we see a lot of the stuff in the media that talks about what may have happened or what has happened in a taxi. And I think just the way social media has changed, people have a lot more awareness around what are some of the bad things that have happened. But when putting it in the total context of the number of trips, yes, it's safe.
Previous speaker talked about new systems, online systems and so on to help ensure safety, and made reference to camera being actually in the cab so that people can see that that's happening. You referred to the Sydney bus thing, I think. Do you have any view on that in-camera cab idea?
I do. I can actually give you an example which is somewhat removed. Westfield Shopping Centre, even though they're obviously private or an enterprise, were having issues in Sydney with graffiti or property damage in their toilets, and it was costing a significant damage bill. They have reported significant savings or improvements, and they did it through a really cheap control, which was to put in a looped CCTV with a flat screen monitor on the approaches to their pub or their bathrooms or toilets. So as people approached the toilet, they could actually see themselves approaching that area, and for obvious reasons it wasn't included too inside the bathroom. And their statistics on criminal damage to their toilet and bathroom areas before and after the cameras were introduced is significant. And around about, according to their head of security, around about 80% in some instances. The Sydney, and whilst I've got no data available for me sadly, the New South Wales transport area, which has recently been restructured with New South Wales Police and a new Assistant Commissioner, the flat screen monitors in the buses correlates to a reduction of reporting of antisocial behaviour and indeed criminal damage, primarily with etching of glass. And the way it works is the buses now have a number of digital cameras around the inside of that asset. They loop into a pod of 4 flat screen monitors, and a person sitting or standing in that bus will see their own image flicked up within the bus from the 4 screen pod. It's a reminder, and quite a powerful reminder, that you are being monitored and that what you see or what you do is being covered. And so if there were a version of that within the inside of a agreed format taxi, I think, and certainly from my experience and from my knowledge in this area, you would most probably see an improvement in behaviour and a reduction of in offending.
Thank you. Just a very quick question on a completely different matter in some ways. Well, it's related to cameras, but we've heard from a lot of country operators the difficulties they have employing drivers and the time period between applying for and getting the police checks done. Is there anything that you could say about that, and how can we speed that period up, which is often 6 or 8 weeks, we're told?
Yeah, I think if it was 6 to 8 weeks, and that's something in my advocacy role that I'd be looking at and talking with the Victoria Police around how we could improve that.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming along and giving us that substantial submission and for your announcement of what you're going to do. So we appreciate that.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.